study after this session for the. I will I'll rerun the introduction and the market health check since I forgot to push the record button. Such a dummy. But you must admit it was a pretty good lesson. So let me get to the trades of the day. All right, so this is Jamie. Beautiful short at the breakdown below the Bollinger Band mean. Beautiful 1-2-3 exit recovery for a 2.5 hour win. Nice scratch. Great re-entry. 1.5 hour win with at hesitation at the VWAP, so he locks that in. Beautiful Kata 2 for 1.5 hour win with the 1-2-3 exit as it's entering the dragon. That's how you do it. Well done. This is Luke. I like the idea of the short. I think we're slow getting the stop hit. I'd like to have seen you stop and reverse here instead of waiting, and then this would have been a scratch or a fractional loss. But if you enter here and you get that far, you would make money on that trade because you wouldn't let it come all the way back here. The Kata 2 re-entry is slow. This should be a scratch instead of waiting for that because you should have been in here, and then a 1-2-3 exit would be a winning position. That's a reasonable effort on the short side. This is where you got to stop and reverse because you got a rising VWAP and you have a Kata 2 with rising lows in the RL10. That needs to be the entry, not here. And then even though this returns 0.9, that should have returned 1.5. That's a great exit. I like the effort on the short. This is a good stop and reverse for the scratch, so I don't mind this so much. The short here is playing for a return to the VWAP, and that's just what will happen. But if you're getting 2R on this one, then you can afford that stop and reverse. Okay. All right, so good work on that stuff. Let me get to the daily report for tomorrow. We will start. We've already seen the health check. Let's go to dashboard 1. Still bullish normal, still overbought long term, stabilizing short term. Trend is weak. The risk Z is warning us about potential downside, but I do believe that we're in the middle of a critical state that we got to contend with. All of the overreaction and channelings fired and got paid this week, so that's good stuff. Microsoft and Intel, I think, are still the leading candidates in the min pains. Weakness in Merck and Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, so that whole healthcare sector is weak, and Brazil also weak. 5 dojis today, a couple breakdowns, one good up move in McDonald's, so I think that's where I would be looking. It was up a good % today on a day that the rest of the market was mostly down. Home Depot had a nice day too, up 0.91. Good 5-day down, and 3.7 to 1 in Nike. We've got 2 dojis, a handful of channelings in the ETFs, lots of auto framers to choose from, mostly breakdowns though to be worried about. And so when the defensive plays like gold and silver are giving back, then the upside is and utilities even giving back some, then I think we got to be ready for a nice upside move from this price level. Auto Framer has a ton to choose from, so frame your trades and risk accordingly. I like Brazil at 4 to 1. I think I would take a look at Walmart if the S&P is really starting to work here. And I like materials, and then how that has some payoff to the metals. I think I'd be ready for that tomorrow. Only Brazil is in the squeeze, and so I would watch for that one especially. It's a great frog candidate intraday, and I would be ready for that one. Still some weakness here in the defensive plays in the internationals, but you had nice strong moves in discretionary and in moonshots. McDonald's and Home Depot are really standing out for short-term strength. American Express and Walmart, I'd be looking for those to continue to outperform if we get a bounce tomorrow. So if you're looking for individual symbols. And then that's everything I got for today. We'll get this published and posted in the usual way, and be ready for them tomorrow. I'm going to hit pause, and I'm gonna reset and redo the market health check, so it's all part of the same video, so I don't have to redo it. So if you want to stick around and enjoy the suffering a second time, you're welcome to do so. But that's everything I got for you for tonight. Let me hit pause for a moment and get reset.
Recording in progress.
All right, we're going to redo the market health check once more. So I have us in a critical state here with a wide sideways chopping zone. So I'm ready for a strong move north out of that box or south out of that box if it fails. And then as an intraday trader, what I want to do is have about a 50-cent risk box around that closing price, because I'm ready to play this as a tactical trade, and then if this solid support around 443 fails, then I can get a second position in. So I'm going to play a tight intraday breakout box around 447 plus or minus about 30 cents. Then if price gets above the Z1, I would add a second position here, and then if it gets above the all-time high around 454, I would add a third position there. So that's kind of my strategy for this. That would be my first position, second position, third position, and then on the downside, I think it's got to get through this solid support, and then I'll be adding a position at Z2 and Z3 in the usual way. Okay. If it does hold here, then and actually goes up, then that's where the RL10 will bottom out, and then we would have a COTA 2 being formed with a low, a higher low, and a higher low, and then that makes the crossing of the dragon right here at 450 a very strong COTA 2. So I like that. In the sectors, we'll take a look here. The S&P and the Dow were down 0.17. The underperformers were treasuries at off a half, and emerging markets at 1.13. The underperforming sectors were finance, staples, Mexico, blockchain, blended commodities, lumber, materials, VIX, energy, clean energy, oil exploration, Brazil and Bitcoin, lithium, blended crypto, and then wheat and precious. The underperforming company targets and individual specials is Alcoa 4 to 4.4, TX the steel company, Coinbase, John Deere, so some of those industrials, and then U.S. Steel was also off. So tomorrow I would be looking for an extreme move out of the metals, and as we know, it can go in either direction when they're oversold like that. So it could either be more pain and suffering or a rebound from oversold conditions. So I think they will be a strong intraday candidate. To the upside, the sectors that worked were the FANGs and the other lumber off a fraction. Agriculture, oil, and technology basically flat. Tesla and Microsoft doing very well. Robinhood, PayPal, and Cliff Natural Resources up a fraction. This cluster of ETFs here with S&P Biotech, ARC Genomics, Moonshots, Consumer Discretionary. Ethereum had a nice day by the end of the day. ARC Innovation, Commercial Real Estate up 1 1/8. Marijuana up 2 1/3. And then the two big winners today, Squarespace and Virgin Galactic. So in this case study, what I want to give you is a quick lesson on how to read the intraday change of trend. So here we have an intraday sell-off, and now you can see the RL270 declining, the long-term fair value. And by this time late in the day, you notice how, around lunchtime I should say actually, that the sell-off has stopped and now is starting to flatten out as a consequence of this price improvement. So until that happens, the turning point is like right here, and we're going to see why. Until that point, what you had was a high, a lower high, a third lower high, and that's setting up this kind of the upper limit on a downward channel. And then you had a low, a lower low, a lower low, another lower low until it bottoms out. And then at each time you get this rebound that doesn't break out of the channel. But here in this yellow box, this is where this should have failed and come back to the red line and then gone further down if that long-term downward trend were to maintain. But it didn't. Instead, what it did was go sideways and then establish this tight boundary of sideways quiet channel in and around here. And so for about and then you have for support levels being established 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stable lows, then a slightly higher low, creating a little bit of a kata 2 right within the vicinity here of the VWAP. So now as price is testing this, I can put an entry here, a stop here, and that's about a 30-cent risk. And then what I'm noticing is up here, if price comes out above this Z3 pinch right here, then that will be a positive sign. And if it can get higher than this Z3 pinch, that would be a positive sign. So if I see those, then I can make a decision about adding a position or tightening up my stop or whatever. So now I've framed this trade out. I know I want to get short if it violates the thick red line. I want to get long if it takes out the green line. And now as this thing goes up, I'm long. I can at some point decide to move my stop to no lose plus dinner for 2. And that's probably going to happen somewhere in here once we get those rising lows. And then meanwhile, this stop remains in place until we get something like the VWAP rising. And so anywhere in there, you're good to go. You can, if you're just using something like the Bollinger Band mean, you might then end up taking your exit up in here, and now on a 30-cent risk, you make 90 cents of upside gain. And that's about a 3R win, simply by being prepared for the change in intraday directional trend. And now you can see clearly, oh yeah, obviously we got a Z3 pinch happening right here, and then here is our Z3 pinch breakout, and the rest of it is just the standard trading pattern of the Z3 pinch. Okay. And the other thing I like to notice is how the RL270 eventually gives us confirmation of that rising trend, and everything looks good. And there was more that followed later in the day too, but that's a pretty good little 3R win. And that's without getting any extra positions in. Like, you could have genuinely considered a position here and a kata 2 here, so you might have gotten even more than 3. Okay. So that's everything I wanted to cover from there. All right, I'll get this published and posted in the usual way, and we shall see you in the chat room ready to rock tomorrow.